into your computer, or we've got the telephone line on the screen as well, if you prefer to do it that way. And just a few things getting started. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website, discovere.org, after the webinar, probably tomorrow. So if you need to duck out early, or if you have colleagues that weren't able to make it, please direct them to the website. Also, if you have any questions along the way, you can type it into the question box, and we'll do our best to answer as they're coming in, but also you can hold your questions to the end, and we'll have some time for some Q&A after as well. My name is Gwen Hearn. I'm the Outreach Coordinator for Discover E. I'm going to be one of your presenters this evening. And then we also have Tiffany Cortez from the Harmony School of Innovation in Waco, Texas. She's the Technology and Engineering Instructor, as well as the Robotics Program Director at the school. So she's going to be our expert voice for the afternoon and evening. And just a few programs and dates we'd like to point out before we get started. Engineers Week is just right around the corner. It also includes our Future City Finals, Girl Day, which is February 22nd. Global Marathon stretches from March to April, and then we have Global Day of the Engineer on April 4th. And you can learn more about all of these programs at discovere.org and how you can get involved. Right, so moving right along, Engineers Week is one of our biggest, well, it is our biggest event of the year. We get volunteers, engineers, educators, parents from across the country who get involved in kind of engaging students and celebrating engineering. And this year, our Engineers Week theme is Engineers Inspiring Wonder. So our question to you is, how will you inspire wonder? On this webinar tonight, we'll cover how to do engineering activities with your students, how to invite an engineer into your classroom or after-school program, how to host an engineering or STEM event, and then also how to find opportunities in your area that will help you to kind of promote and strengthen your engineering outreach when you're working with your students. So first off, why teach engineering? Engineering is a great way to get students involved hands-on. Students learn by doing. Engineers are creative and analytical, and so are students, so there's that natural connection right there. And it's also a great way to connect lessons to what matters to the students. So to go into that a little bit, engineering activities in your classrooms, how do you incorporate them? You can show students that engineering is part of everything they touch. You know, it's more than just building planes and bridges. There are many different types of engineering. Some examples are we have an awesome volunteer who runs an engineering makeup workshop for her Introduce to Girl to Engineering Day program that incorporates chemical engineering. It takes something that the students are interested in and shows them how engineering is involved in what they're actually doing and products that they're using every day. It helps to reinforce the science and math concepts by giving them practical experience. And it really helps to kind of deepen students' exploration of topics that they're already part of their curriculum, or, you know, as we mentioned, things that they do every day. It's also a lot of fun. Some other examples, you could encourage your students to research and study the engineering that goes into their cell phones and tablets. What's actually happening to make those text messages arrive on their friend's phone just feet away. So it's great ways to really take those concepts that they're learning and put it into reality as something practical for them to hold on to and help to better understand. At discovere.org, we do have a lot of activities that you can use for free, download, using in your classroom. They correspond with a lot of the topics you might already be covering. These are just a few examples of our activities and the topics and that they relate to in your classroom, and so you can see where the correlation is, that it really does help to supplement, well, not necessarily supplement, but it helps to complement what you're already learning and teaching. On our website, we have over 125 activities and lesson plans. We have them for grades K through 12, and you can sort by grade, topic, how long they take, engineering discipline. We also have them in multiple languages. So if you're teaching an after-school program in a different language, or a teacher who's teaching Spanish, you can incorporate these engineering activities into your lessons as well. So one of the things that we at Discover E get a lot, questions we get is, how do we set up an engineer visit? If you are a teacher and you're not sure how to actually teach engineering, or you need some help, how do you invite an engineer into your classroom? We've got the tips and the tools to help you out with that. Typically, you want to try to keep your engineer visit to 45 to 60 minutes, depending on kind of the needs of your class, the amount of time that you have, and the amount of time that the engineer can volunteer as well. And we've got a sample outline here that's pretty simple. Obviously, you want an introduction. The engineer can tell your students a bit about what they do, what their job is, how they got to where they are. And then one really great part of these visits is a hands-on activity. This is really where you can take the information that the engineers are sharing and apply it to what the students are learning. You get that hands-on experience, and the students are learning and having fun at the same time. And then, of course, as you know, it's important to leave time for questions and answers so that we can relate what's happening and what they just learned back to the actual engineer's job, so that they can get that practical experience, but then relate it back to what they're learning as well. So the next question comes, how do I find an engineer? This is a great question. If you've never invited an engineer to your classroom before, it might be kind of tricky not knowing where to start. So one of the things we recommend is talk to your school. Ask your principal and career advisors. They may have connections from the past. Have you worked with engineers in the past? Do you know anybody personally? You can ask your students as well. They might have parents, family members, neighbors, cousins who are engineers that might be willing to come in and engage your class. Another great place to start is looking at former students who are now engineers. We've heard a lot of great stories out there about engineers who attended these schools as kids and are now coming back and volunteering and engaging their students. Another great way is just to Google it, type it into Google engineering companies in Cortes, California. Insert the name of your state and your town, and you might be surprised what you come up with. These companies, a lot of them have outreach built into kind of what they do, and so their engineers are excited to go out into the community and engage with students, share what they're doing, and kind of spread that knowledge. Also, if you have universities or colleges near you, engineering schools are a great place to look for volunteers and outreach. A lot of students will come back, and that near-peer interaction really helps to bridge the age gap and make the engineering seem a lot closer to what your students are actually studying, if they're seeing somebody closer to their age who's doing it. Also, there are many national engineering societies. They might have chapters in your area. Some of them that you can look for would be like the Society of Women Engineers, the American Society of Civil Engineers, National Society of Black Engineers. These are all great societies and organizations to engage with. And with these organizations, outreach is built into the essence of who they are. They have professional chapters. A lot of them have student chapters and even younger member chapters. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but these are great places to look. And if you didn't catch those names, if you visit the About Us page on our website, you can find a list of engineering societies who are part of our Discover E coalition. That would be great places to start to look out for. All right, so you found your engineer, now what do you do? In advance of the visit, you want to make sure that you talk to the engineer. Let them know what your students are studying. And it's great if they can make links from the presentation to what your students are actually working on. Also, make sure to discuss how much they know about engineering. It's not just what they're studying, but what they already know. If the engineer comes in and starts at the very beginning, but you've been studying engineering for 2 months, you might start to lose your students there. So make sure that the engineers are on the same page that you are. Some students also may have never met an engineer, don't know what they do. So that's something to talk to the engineer about as well. Kind of explaining what they do and who they are in a way that the students can understand. As we talked about earlier, inviting an engineer and having a hands-on activity is a great way to get them working together. If you already have activities in mind that you want to do, make sure you share it with the engineer. Also, talk to them. They probably have activities that they take on their regular outreach that they do with multiple groups. So you might just make sure that it's not one you've already done in your classroom. You want to do something new and exciting so the students can have a way to, or something to ask the engineer about. Ask them for help, or how they can do this, or redesign that, or why isn't this working when we tested it. So make sure you have all of these discussions in advance. Also, determine how long the students will have with the engineer. You want to make sure you've got time for an introduction, the activity, but also you want time for questions and answers at the end. That way they can reinforce what they're learning, they can ask questions. One of the other things that the engineers might ask you, but it might be a good thing to approach, is talk about how your room is set up. Will you need to move desks? Or will you need to use a different type of tables? Is it something that you're going to set down on the floor? Or are they activities that are going to be done at the individual tables or groups? And this will help the engineer and yourself to figure out how to organize the activity. Also, and something that the engineers might not think about is it's important to communicate to the engineer the technical capabilities of your classroom. If they come in and they need electricity, or if they need internet access, that may or may not be something that you have available in your room. So just make sure that you set up those expectations and let them know what you have and find out what they need from you so that you can make the arrangements if possible. All right. So our next section is talking a little bit about engineering and STEM events, and this is where we're going to invite Tiffany to speak a bit. She's had some really awesome experience organizing events for her students in and out of the classroom. So Tiffany, I'll let you take this away.
Okay. Hello. My name is Tiffany Cortez. Again, I'm an engineering teacher in Waco for Harmony School of Innovation. I've been teaching engineering for I think this is my 7th year teaching. I've done a Girl Day event for 3 years. And I've also had engineers come into my classes and do various things. As far as the activities and things that we've done and how we've set them up, last year for the Girl Day event, we had I've had about 20 girls trained in the Side Girls curriculum, and that was just something I took on with a group that I'm in called the National Girls Collaborative, and we got my girls trained, and they're in high school. These are the high school girls, and we decided to host an event together, and they chose several different activities that they wanted to do with elementary and middle school age girls. One was 3D modeling on iPads, and we brought in one of my 3D printers, and the younger girls had iPads and Chromebooks, and they were able to use Tinkercad to create 3D models. And we asked them to design a charm for themselves, and we were able to print them all within that evening. We also were able to get some hammer nails and some wood, and they were able to hammer nails into the wood and create the string art type things that you've possibly seen on Pinterest. So that was one event, and we've also done events at the zoo and at Cameron Park Zoo and the Mayborn Museum, and they've done a project called Parachute Parade, where they took several different materials and created parachutes for little plastic frogs that we found, and they were trying to see who could keep the frog in the air the longest. And another one, penny boat project, and they were to create a boat that would hold up or at least 100 pennies for at least a minute in water afloat. So Let's see. And yes, snacks definitely keep the kids involved. You can get kids to come just by having pizza or other snacks that they definitely want food. We had several parents that wound up helping us out, and I have some awesome school staff that helps me out with things like this. Um, we're hosting an event this year at the Mayborn Museum for Girl Day, and I've reached out to colleges and I've reached out to engineers I know and other partners that I've worked with, and they're all hosting activity stations that they're going to do. We've got SpaceX, we've got Texas A&M, Baylor, the Mayborn Museum, Cameron Park Zoo, Girl Scouts, and several different other partners. So those are um, along the lines of the different types of groups that you could reach out to. Um, did you want me to go ahead and move on, Gwen? Okay. So like I was just saying about getting a team together, I've gotten coworkers together. I reached out on LinkedIn. Um, I networked with people that I knew, and people have contacted people that they've known. We're trying to get several different female engineers for the event to show up, and we're hoping to get shirts that say, ask me what I'm an engineer, ask me about what I do, so that they can walk around at the museum and young ladies can talk to them and converse with them about what they do. Um, we've been hosting planning meetings with each other, mostly online. We have an email chain that we're talking to each other with, and Google Docs that we're communicating what we've done on. So that's a lot of how we're doing our planning, but we've had a couple of meetings and a couple of phone calls that we've done with each other, because a lot of us are spread out. If you don't know Texas very well, College Station and Waco are about an hour and a half apart, and we're both working together. And we're working with other people that are not directly within the Waco area, so it's kind of hard to get everybody together. But we've decided on our location. We've decided we're going to do it from 4:30 to 7:30 because we're going to make sure that we're showing the Dream Big movie during the event, and that's one of the big things at the event is to show the Dream Big movie. Uh, and then every group's going to host an activity around the entire museum. They've got all kinds of things. I think the museum's doing something with some of the light up circuitry with the Play-Doh. I think SpaceX is going to do a rocketry project outside, and everybody else is kind of deciding on what they're doing. But you can look for activities like Gwen was just saying. Discovery.org has a lot. Pinterest is a great, valuable resource that I've found a lot of projects on too. Side Girls and PBS both have a lot of things on there that you can grab projects from if you're not coming up with anything. You always want to keep the engineering design process in mind. I mean, it's kind of hard not to once you get into it. Basically figuring out a problem and developing ways to solve it by using research, brainstorming, coming up with many different solutions, and then figuring out which one you're actually going to focus on. A lot of my research in my master's degree has been on how to get females more interested in engineering, and one of the things that research has shown that pulls in girls a lot more is the creative aspect of engineering projects. So make sure that there is something creative, that they get to have fun and think outside the box with the creativity within it. And really, they need to see female role models. Girls need to see other girls succeeding in a path in order to see themselves be able to travel down the same path. Typically, you're not. A lot of people won't travel down a path unless they see somebody that is like them, that they see succeeding already down that path. So it's good to get females that have already succeeded and are already in the field working, and try to get them to work with them and in the same ways Gwen has already talked about, in a couple of other ways that I'm going to go ahead and get into in a minute. Make sure that you're not taking it on all by yourself. Sometimes I have a tendency to do that, but make sure you're delegating and give people responsibility that are going to wind up helping you. Figure out what kind of project materials are needed. Assign specific projects to a certain person or group of people, and make sure that they're responsible for getting those materials and that they're taking responsibility for it. You can have giveaways. Everybody likes to take free stuff and have something to have that they're taking away from an event. So try to find giveaway items or handouts with take home knowledge, or just the project itself. If it's something fun that they can take home with them, that just makes the experience a whole lot better, because then they can look back on that and be like, oh yeah, I did that the other day. Or if it's something that they're proud of, that they're going to go and show off to everybody. And really implement it. Just make sure you're following through. Don't put in the work for it and not fully follow through. Make sure that you're marketing it, and make sure that all your bases are covered.
Tiffany, we have a great question.
Yes.
From Linda Whitty, asking, how far in advance do you plan your events?
Last year I planned a week ahead. But this year we started planning, I want to say I started hitting people up around October. And that's when I just started putting it in people's ears, and we actually started planning in December. So I think that's given us enough time to where we're not stressed out towards the end. Were there any other questions?
You got a week ahead from Linda. That is a short timeline. How'd you pull that off?
I'm just, I've got a good crew working with me. I've got an awesome group of girls, and we're able to pull things together. And I mean, we can do some last minute things and make them look good. So.
Teresa wants to know, what talking points did you use to convince partners to join you?
The fact that, girls in engineering, it's very limited. In computer science and in engineering, it's less than 25%. And activities like this inspire a lot more interest in pursuing these areas. They're able to come and some of them, it's just the fact that they got to come and advertise themselves, or, get out in the community as well, because a lot of people are just trying to do outreach just like anybody else. So if they've got a great opportunity to get out, do outreach, and let people know what they're doing within their own organization, they're more apt to be able to or to take part in something like this.
And Linda wants to know, did you get donations from the community?
Not yet. No. The Mayborn has said that they've got a small budget that we're able to use, but we haven't dipped into that yet. But I think each organization is pretty much just funding their own supplies that they're bringing.
I'm going to jump in here. I ran a science night at my daughter's elementary school, and the local bank, we applied for a grant, and we got $1,000 from the local bank.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. If you guys have little local banks, a lot of them want to just set up a table at your event.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I'm sure I could get donors. I also run a robotics program with 11 robotics teams, and I do hit them up a lot for my robotics team. So I get kind of timid about hitting them up for this, and I'm trying to get this out into the community this year and hopefully get some good feedback, and then they'll see that this is going on and maybe want to help out next year.
All right, that's it for the questions for now.
Okay. Oh, I can scroll. I'm sorry. I didn't know I could flip through the slides. All right. So speakers and volunteers, etc. So LinkedIn is a valuable source if you're not on there. It's a great site to get onto, because then you can just basically look up engineers in your vicinity, your area, and add them to your networking list on there, and make posts and say, hey, we're doing this. Are there any engineers out there willing to help out with this event? And more than likely, they're going to see it in their feed, and they may answer and offer up their help. Fabfims.org and millionwomenmentors.com are two websites where STEM women in STEM areas have been asked to sign up and offer themselves as volunteers for speaking engagements or for volunteering to help out with STEM activities and various things like that. So they've set up accounts on there, basically just like a Facebook page or any other social media page, and you're able to search for mentors in your area and see if they're available to help you out with whatever activity you may be doing. And I believe on there, they're also able to say what kind of availability they have, what days they're available and things like that. So that you're not just hitting up somebody just randomly that may not be able to do it. And you would know whether or not they could. Nepris.com is a fairly new website that you are able to almost like Skype with professionals. But the cool thing about Nepris is you can put in a request for your specific thing or activity that you're wanting to, and the people at Nepris will try to find somebody to fill your spot. So you don't have to do all the legwork or anything like that. There is a cost for Nepris, from what I understand. I wound up getting it free through a grant from our region, our ESC region, and which is pretty cool. But you can set up these Skype meetings and video meetings, and it could be somebody at maybe like SpaceX. And this was an idea I offered one of the ladies at SpaceX the other day, was maybe you could walk around with your phone and just, take my students on a tour of the place, because they're not actually physically able to visit SpaceX due to security issues. But maybe she could walk around with the phone and be like, okay, here's this, here's that, with this video. So, and she thought that was a good idea. So that's another thing that you can do if you're not able to actually bring the engineer in. And this engineer could be from, if you're in Texas, from New York, or, California, they could be from anywhere, from China or something like that, as long as they're logged into this Nepris account. And again, just like Gwen was saying earlier, ask around, network, ask your principal, ask your coworkers, send out an email to your coworkers and say, hey, does anybody know any engineers that would be willing to do this? We're a T-STEM school, which is a T-STEM designated academy. So we have to have a STEM group for our school, and we have to have various community members. So I have a STEM contact list that I can dip into and ask for various engineers that we already work with. And I share that with my coworkers if they have, events or speakers that they need, and they're able to pull from my contacts list. And so, like, location ideas, we've done our events in the past in our gym. We don't have an auditorium, but other community spaces, I mean, like I said, our zoo was really, really receptive to us coming out there. The museum's been awesome. I'm sure some of the colleges would have stepped up if I would have asked them. Sponsorship opportunities, just like was being said earlier, banks, auto dealerships, local businesses, engineering companies, Optimist Club has been one of our greatest sponsors. So that's one to hit up. What's the other one called? The Rotary Club, I believe. Optimist and Rotary Club, they ours, at least, I'm not sure if this is true for all of them, but they fundraise money specifically for children's events kind of like this, or for baseball teams, robotics teams, and other things like that. So those are great ones to call up and offer to come talk to at one of their meetings and let them know what you're doing and see if they have any funding that's available. And they check out a step-by-step guide to creating a large-scale event that has a lot of great information that helps you. And I believe they have that on the Discovery website. And
you can find that training under the training tab at the top of discovery.org.
Yes, awesome. Great. Were there any other questions?
We got some questions about ordering the Dream Big DVD, which I answered in the chat box. Yeah, that's about it. I've answered the questions in the chat box that were specific to general people. So I think we're good.
Awesome. And this is my contact information. Feel free to email me any questions. I'll be posting stuff from our event on Instagram and Twitter, and that's my LinkedIn page. My website, if you do happen to visit it, I've got a lot of information over 3D printing for the most part and robotics. So if you're looking for any information on that, I have it available to you.
Great. Thank you, Tiffany. You've got some great insight to share. So I know we appreciate you sharing it with us.
No problem. Thank you.
Great. All right. So next is how to find opportunities near you. If you aren't able to plan a big event or are just kind of looking for other opportunities to engage your students in engineering, we've got some great options for you. You can arrange a field trip to see the Dream Big film. It's playing at a museum theater near you. There's also a plan in the works for an educational release for hopefully later this fall. So that would be a good option for getting it into your classroom. But for now, if you've got a museum near you, you should definitely check it out on the big screen. You can talk to your students about starting a SWE Next program at your school. Again, SWE is the Society of Women Engineers. This is a program that's aimed primarily at engaging girls in the middle and high school level in engineering. You can start your own club, or you may already have one that's at your school that you can get involved with. We've also got the Future City competition, which is for you middle school teachers out there. This is a competition for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, where students are asked to imagine, research, design, and create cities of the future. This is a program that Discover E runs, and it's a really great program and actually a competition for the middle school students. So you can check out the futurecity.org to learn more. If your school already has a program, you should definitely get involved. And if it's something that is of interest to you, but you don't have a program, you can find out how to start your own team on the website. And this would be something that you would want to get involved with for next year. The finals competition is during Engineers Week in February every year, but you can start your planning over the summer, just your team on board, and then once the school year starts, you're up and running. You can also find local Engineers Week activities in your area on our website by visiting our upcoming events. If you visit the homepage, you'll see a tab. You can click there. You can search for events by category if you're looking for Engineers Week or Girl Day or Global Marathon or any of our other programs. You can find events that way. You can type in your location and see what's near, or you can also post your own events. If you're hosting an engineering or a STEM festival that is open to the public, where you just want to let people know what's going on, you can upload your own event information there, and you can add as little or as much information as you like. And also, remember, the internet is your friend. You can Google search for engineering outreach in your town, engineering events, Engineers Week happening. That's always a great resource for finding stuff that's going on. One other thing that you might find helpful are some of our online trainings. We have everything on our website is available for use. That includes their activities, these trainings as well. If you need a little help with leading kids through successful engineering experiences, we've got trainings on that. How do you talk to kids about engineering? How do you plan a large-scale event, which is kind of what we just touched on with speaking with Tiffany. We've got trainings that cover these and more. We also have 3 really great trainings about how to bring engineering into your classroom in more detail, and we've got the trainings broken up for elementary school, middle school, and high school. So you can kind of get a better, more in-depth grasp on how to introduce engineering to your grade level that you teach or regularly engage with. I did want to share our social media information with you all. This is a great way to connect with us. Also, you can help spread the word about your events and what you're doing by using the Engineers Week in Girls Day hashtags on Twitter and Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook as well to learn more about what's happening kind of more in the moment. And then finally, I just wanted to leave another moment for some questions. Do we have anything else that's popped up?
No, we've answered all of the questions, but if anyone has one, now's the time. Type your question in, and we've got two awesome speakers who can answer it. Well, it doesn't look like there's any more questions.
All right. Well then, with that, here is our information. You can ask questions at info@discovery.org. Visit our website at discovery.org and stay in touch. Let us know what you're doing. Post your events on the website. Search for more events as well. Make sure you peruse through the activities and the trainings to help you kind of bolster what you're doing and be successful with the students. All right. So with that, I think we'll say goodnight and thank you. If you have any other questions that pop up while you're kind of mulling over the webinar, please send us emails. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.